Hi, it's Chris Meaden here again. On the last video I said I'd tell you a little bit more about myself and my own experiences from with mental health. You know, I'm one of 5. I've got 3 brothers and 1 sister, and I grew up in Kent, in Sevenoaks, and mostly Sevenoaks, Tunbridge Wells area, I went to school and didn't feel that school really suited me. I didn't really feel engaged in the process of education, yet my brothers and sister were more academic, should we say. I was more of a physical, hands-on person. So I went through primary school and secondary school, really sort of battling with just not really feeling fully engaged in the process of school. Quite a common story for so many people, I see. But yeah, really, whilst at school, a lot of beliefs, I formed a lot of beliefs about myself which were wrong. And I found that you know, really, when we grow up, when we're first born, you know, we're encouraged to have an imagination. We're encouraged to use our creativity, and you know, the easiest way of learning is through fun, enjoying ourselves. And then we start to get educated. We start going to get school, and we get told to stop daydreaming. You know, and people around you start to condition you as to their own experiences, their own worlds. So, you know, and when you're a young kid, you know, you're looking up at people, you know, your parents, you're looking up at your teachers, perceiving them as these people who know so much, and how teachers can be quite blunt and quite remove people's confidence. I felt a lot of the teachers I interacted with were really sort of very good at impressing upon you their beliefs they hold about you, and also their own beliefs. And reality is that your school life is only, you know, a short period of your life, and teachers would berate, would criticize. And I'd say that they weren't encouraging, they weren't motivating. If you think about the teachers you experienced and the subject you liked, the likelihood is because of the teacher. It was because the teacher was exciting, engaging, and was fun, and made the subject you know, enjoyable to go to. But I found that the teachers I was being taught by, you know, they just the school system in the secondary school I was at was it had a 6-tier system where you had A1 to A3 and B1 to B3, and I was stuck in the bottom. Yeah, and I was stuck in the bottom with all the idiots, the kids who just didn't want to learn, and I just messed around in class, and I couldn't move through the groups because I was just the groups were all too big above, so you couldn't jump from B3 to B2 or straight to B1. It just wasn't possible. You had to go through the process, and it was really frustrating because I was stuck in my secondary school with a load of kids who were just messing around, who just weren't willing to learn. And every time I was sort of, you know, would give the answers, I'd be criticised by a number of them, called Professor Meaden. It was a really frustrating time, and as a result, you know, I left school with not a huge amount of qualifications. And of course, my son's going to watch this because he's just gone through his GCSEs, and he did okay, he did well. He's done, you know, he did better than me, I have to say. But he'll be quite surprised when he sees this, Daniel. Yeah, I even had to. They had CSEs and GCSEs and O levels at the time then, and of course. Quite a long time ago, I actually had to enter myself, pay for the exam fees to enter myself. I did art and metalwork, which really frustrated me because, you know, I'm a very practical person, and I love getting my hands dirty with stuff. Yeah, I can remember the art teacher saying no, you wouldn't be any good. And there was like 35 of us in the class, and she entered them all, and I think 5 of us entered by paying for it. And out of the class, like 28 people failed, and I think 2 of the people who paid failed, and the rest of they'd entered failed. So it's like, right, okay, so what a great and she was head of art, and you're thinking, well, what a great way of actually assessing people's abilities. So when I left school, I didn't feel particularly great about myself. I thought I was pretty stupid, and my brothers and sisters didn't make it any easier. They came up with this like language which they used to talk to themselves. It just used to humiliate me. But when I left school, I thought, well, you know what, I'm past that now. So I went off and did apprenticeship in electrical electronics, and then in heating and ventilation, and then I moved across to robotic production lines, and in the car industry, and I did that for about 15 or 20 years, something like that, and that was real fun. I loved that. It's traveling around the world, but of course it was dire for relationships. But one thing which during my upbringing, I would have certain situations where I was uncomfortable socially. I'd be very had a group of friends, and I'd used to sneak out when I used to leave. I used to sneak out because I didn't want to say goodbye for some reason. There was just some weird thing about whether or not someone was going to say something, and it was really weird. And of course, then inside your head, when having a conversation, judging whether or not you said something right, was it right? Did I say it? Did I offend? All this stuff was going on. I didn't know any different. I didn't even ask my parents whether or not it was normal. But I found that going through becoming a hypnotist and a therapist, that this is some of the traits of social anxiety. And I've had times in my life where I had panic attacks as well. And I got pretty successful running a business, doing IT, and I worked in the car industry first, and then I moved across into IT as a consultant, and did that for a good few years. And one thing that's really good is develop my skills for diagnostics. I used to diagnose the stuff for all the big car manufacturers, and look at how you could improve production in production lines, and look at analysing equipment and movement of systems and stuff. And I was really good at it. My dad was a fantastic engineer. He was an amazing engineer, travelled around the world, was involved in lots of massive engineering projects, groundbreaking projects. And he was not really around for a vast part of my life, because he was travelling around the world working in different places. But real inspiration for me of what he did. And I used to do lots of stuff around the house, and for my dad, and give us like list of tasks, and I'd be jumping there and do all the things. I loved it, but I got a bit of resentment from my brothers and sisters. But hey, because he'd sort of give us pocket money based on whatever. So I was really engaged in the practical side of things. But when I started doing the IT, when I was doing the IT consulting side, it was like coming in 2010. I got frustrated with it, and of course we got hit by the recession and what was going on. I thought, what, I started doing NLP in 2004. How it came about was that I was working for the car industry, and everyone knew me because it's a very small, close-knit community of programmers who work in the car industry, and there's like a handful of big vendors who deal with this equipment, the installation of these equipment, because they're such huge, expensive equipment. So they're like 20-30 million pounds, these production lines, and there's like 10, 15, 20, 25 of them per car. So everyone knew me, so I didn't have to do any marketing. Everyone knew what I was capable of. But when I went, I retrained to become a Microsoft certified system engineer, and I did all the exams and passed it, and I left doing the car industry because relationships kept on falling apart, because I was like overseas for a year, 2 years and stuff like that, and it just wasn't sustainable. And then so I started running my business, working. Well, actually, I did have a short period, about 18 months, I suppose, in London, working as a consultant. I blagged my way into that. That was funny. They even interviewed me 3 years before and said no, and then I came in 3 years later and I became a consultant. It was hilarious, and they still didn't recognise who I was from 3 years before. Which and I used to remember, I used to turn up in a pinstripe suit, and everyone goes, "Who's the guy in a pinstripe suit?" You know, and I was really looked the part, and I did really well with that. But you know, times hit hard at that company, and they had to downsize, and I made a fatal mistake of moving from consulting to working in sales, and I was the last in, so I was the first out the door. But when I started working. When I started working for myself, again, because I'd done that before, and I just had this 18 months or so with this company in London, I had to phone up people. I did like networking events, stuff like that, and I felt uncomfortable about those networking events. Never felt really completely confident about them. And of course, you know, when you do BNI, you have to stand up and do your 60 seconds and like say who you are and what you're about and what you want as a lead and stuff like that. I used to wait in line for as it goes around the table and getting more and more nervous, more anxious, and feeling sweaty palms. And then when I'd stand up, I'd like be like choking with my words, and the hearing was stuttering. It was just it was really horrible. I thought this is ridiculous, and then you know, I got some business through doing the networking, but I thought, well, I've got a cold call, so I started cold calling on the phone, and I realised I started developing a fear of cold calling. I was like phoning up businesses and saying, hey, you know, do you want to, you know, new IT support companies that install networks and security systems and stuff, and I started doing avoidance, which is the most common area to start with, avoiding situations and not doing them. And I thought, this is getting silly. My business is like deteriorating. You know, I've got to bring in. I'd my first two boys then, Jamie and Dan. And I thought, I've got to sort this out. So I had a search on the internet, and that's when I found Paul McKenna. Paul McKenna was doing a training in a TUC with Richard Bandler, and I knew Paul McKenna from the TV and stuff, but I hadn't heard of Richard Bandler. So I went on a 3-day hypnosis course, and that was groundbreaking. It really changed my perspective in life, and it opened up the doors to just collapsing so many beliefs I held about myself from school, from the teachers and how I would perceive myself. I'd been, you know, pretty successful in what I was doing. You know, I built my confidence up, but I really sort of it was really when I did that, I thought, wow, this is just amazing. It's suddenly a realization that so much of the BS, yeah, which I say bullshit, which is our belief system holds, about what I'm capable of, or who I am, or what can I achieve. And there was so much ringing true about some of the teachers and what teachers had programmed me and said, and I had some various things happened to me, and I just started to bust those beliefs, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. So you know, like so many people get into NLP and hypnosis, you end up becoming a bit of a course junkie. So I did my NLP practitioner. I loved doing that. I was working with people, and I can remember busting some guy's phobia for fear of flying in a pub in Covent Garden in about 3 minutes, which was really cool. It all drew back to a time when he was in a fairground, and that was after the first practitioner, in the middle of the practitioner course actually, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. And the guy was just so made up, can't believe it, it's all gone. So I did practitioner, I did the NLP master practitioner, and at that time you could do, which was pretty wrong really when looking back at it, you could do the NLP practitioner, and then you could do 2 or 3 weeks later you could do the NLP master practitioner. So you could go through from within a month, say, I'm a master practitioner in NLP. In reality, you haven't got a clue what you're doing the first after practitioner. You've got to go out and practice it, and you know, the framework of NLP is just amazing. If you don't know what NLP is, neuro-linguistic programming, and it's created by Grinder and Bandler, and they sort of separated and have their own different flavours of NLP. Richard Bandler's far more entertaining, more exciting, in my opinion. And I started doing the NLP. I did lots of, and I went over the Master Practitioner and the NLP. I've done my Master Practitioners about 5 times now, and my prac about 4 times. And I went off to Orlando, and that was cool. Went to Orlando, did charisma enhancement, a whole neurohypnotic repatterning, whole range of courses. And really just exploring all these amazing things, and just busting my beliefs and people around me. And I thought, this is really cool. But I was still running the IT business, and that was going really well. But you know, when we was getting to sort of 2010, that's the first time we started hit by the recession. You know, it started in 2007, 2008, but we only really saw it in 2010. And I thought, you know what, I could do with something different. So that's when I made that decision of, you know what, I'll let the IT business go and start doing the therapy and the coaching, and that's really started my journey. You know, fast forward to now, you know, I've got a busy clinic. I've got 2 clinics, one in Harley Street and one in Tunbridge Wells, and you know, it's full every week, pretty much. But you know, the thing is that you know, I've seen so many people, and there's such so many commonalities in so many of people's behaviours in terms of these conditions, you know, I can only see a limited amount of people in a week, because you know, it's very draining. Yeah, I hear a lot of horrific trauma every week, and you know, as a practitioner, you have to protect yourself from it, and you know, sometimes some of this stuff gets through, sometimes, and you have to sort yourself out. But yeah, I'm pretty good. I had got some amazing training and mentoring from a good friend, Steve Crabb. Hi, Steve, if you ever get to watch this. And he really set me up. He really set me up on his protege program, and you know, I'm indebted to Steve for what he did for me. You know, there's so many people out there being therapists, hypnotists, and they're unfortunately not very good at marketing. They're not very good at marketing, or they're not technical. Yeah, but fortunately, you know, I had so many years in technical field in doing IT and computer systems and stuff, but you know, I'm very adaptable to technology. But with this boot camp, you know, this is all about this. You know, it's all about this journaling, this journey about creating the boot camp. I've made a few attempts over the years to do it, but held back. You know, held back for, oh, not sure if I've got enough experience. Not sure I've got. You know, I've seen that many people now. I can definitely say, yeah, I've got a lot of experience, and the techniques are transferable from a one-to-one environment to a virtual environment, you know, following a process online. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to sort of building this out, and I'm going to get, as we go through the process, to get you guys to give your input, so that it's a creation of what I've seen with clients, but more so, you know, if I missed anything, because obviously in a session it's very dynamic. You know, I have a framework, but it's very dynamic to how the person's reacting, responding, and there's feedback. You know, there's a neurological state, and you can see what's happening, what sort of emotions are being displayed, to where I go in terms of navigate to clear someone's trauma and their anxiety and whatever the issues may be. So it's very much an interactive process. So that transition to moving across to, you know, I'm going to deliver to you like a framework is going to be really interesting. I'm sure it's going to show some challenges along the way, but I'm up for it, and I hope you know, you guys will be up for it as well. But I just thought I'd give you a bit of a backstory, really. So right now, you know, we're in October 2018. I've got 2 beautiful twins of Charlotte and Henry, and they're 2 next on Halloween. And of course Daniel and Jamie from a past relationship. Dan's 16 and Jamie's 15. You know, I just want to make a good life for for both, well, all my kids really, and just to be there. And you know, there's only so many days, only so many hours I can work in the clinic, and I do work a lot because Lindsay, when we first started out, Lindsay started with me, and she's like, you know, equally qualified as myself, and she's wonderful. She's got a new business, the Mojo Mummy, so check that out. She's wonderful. I always say that. Yeah, I think we're at a stage now with the advancements of what we have out there. They really do lend much more to a framework to make changes via, you know, a medium such as, you know, an online process, whereas previously, you know, a lot of the techniques, you know, not necessarily would work. And one thing to be clear, actually, the techniques which I use are really rapid, so I only see clients for a few sessions, okay, but of course every individual has got different aspects of what their issues are. So it might be around health, it might be around you know, fear of enclosed spaces, feeling trapped. It might be a public speaking. It may be you know, issues of trauma. So working out, mapping out this like this boot camp as to how it's going to show up, it's going to be, you know, quite an interesting process, because obviously I want to encompass, I don't want to just say anxiety on its own, because this is not just anxiety. It's going to be dealing with your emotional responses to circumstances in your environment and things which happen to you in your lifetime. So whether or not it's, you know, bereavement, whether or not it's you know, childhood events, abuse, you know, situations or relationship breakdowns, you know, I'm really looking to sort of make this really cover a lot of areas, so that you get more peace within yourself in terms of who you are, so that rather than looking back and the things of the past and more the horrible stuff, we just remove those, so you can look back into your past and see the good stuff. You know, and there is good stuff, however bad someone's had, you know, there is still good times, so that you're living for the now, okay, and looking to the future with like a new resources, new way of looking at things. Yeah, because so much of this is also about breaking beliefs about yourself, what you think you can do, what you can achieve. You know, now this has taken a long time for me to sort of man up to do this, and of course, you know, I'm sort of being a bit showing a bit of my personal past, but you know what, clients come to me every day and tell me the most intimate secrets, and obviously, you know, those are 100% confidential, but at the same time, I think you know, you need to know where I'm coming from. Yeah, I've been there. Obviously, I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a family where it was caring. I wouldn't say that it was overly loving. You know, I think one thing which stands out is previous generations aren't very good at showing love, aren't necessarily tactile, but we are now. But you know, I had a good upbringing. I'd never say that you know, we were impoverished in a way. That's, you know, far from it. But at the same time, we weren't, you know, wealthy at the same time either. So, but it's really the experience which I had over my lifetime, and I'm going to go through some of those over the sessions about beliefs which I formed about certain things happening in my childhood, about friends, and yeah, there's a few situations along the way, but anyway, I hope that gives you a bit more insight about who I am and what I do and what my aspirations are for this boot camp. So bye bye for now, and you might see this on Instagram and Facebook, and it'll probably be on my podcast. So look out for that. I will be posting it and putting it on the links to those, so you can follow the journey. Now I'm looking to do this post every day for the next 365 days. Scary, but yeah, that's that's the plan. It may only be a podcast, short, but obviously this is a little bit of a long one. This is a bit of an introduction about who I am, but I thought, you know, it's worth spending the time just to give you a bit of insight about me, and of course I'll tell you more as we go through this journey together. Okay, so bye for now.